Aura and Aiden by Sheppard. In the fairy realm, the land of the ever young, lived a young scythe named Aura. Scythes are rulers of the skies, the spirits of the air. They are graceful, petite, and feminine, but they have a certain wildness about them. As wild as the winds they stir in the sky, as free as the birds that fly with them. They drift on a breeze that blows the corn, and whispers through the trees, and whips up sand in the desert. If you listen carefully, you can hear them shriek with laughter, with the passing of the storm or mighty gales that lash the sea. Now Aura had a secret. Every afternoon she would fly through the pink and white clouds to the seashore. Although she was a spirit of the air, she loved the sea. She loved the sound of the waves splashing against the rocks, the smell, and the taste of the salt on her lips. She would sit and watch the sunset over the horizon, filling the sky with reds and oranges and yellows. When the sun had nearly disappeared below the horizon, she would fly as fast as her wings would take her back to the trees where she lived. Every day after her chores were finished, Aura would visit the seashore and stay until the light began to fade. Now autumn came to an end, and winter arrived. The days grew short and the nights came early. One day, Aura was watching dolphins frolic in the waves when she didn't notice that the pale sun had disappeared and the night sky had darkened. When she heard an owl hoot in the distance, she came out of her trance and was shocked to see the moon rising over the mountains. She felt fear in her heart, like never before, and flew up into the air towards home. The sound of the night was all around her. Aura had never been out so late before. She knew the Queen of the Skies would be angry with her if she knew Aura was out past the turning of the day. It was a cold night, and the air was bright and crisp. Each breath in her aching lungs was so sharp it hurt like daggers, but Aura flew on. The trees and plants were shimmering in the moonlight. She knew that Jack Frost was out turning the world white. Her mother had told her stories of Jack Frost and his magical powers. But of course, he was dangerous and not to be trusted. As Aura flew through the evergreen, she felt so cold. Her thin, flowing gown did not keep her warm, and her little bolero jacket was barely keeping out the night air. Aura felt weak and her body tired. It was an effort to carry on. She knew if she could just get past the clearing in the middle of the forest and down past the stream and on towards the flower meadow, she would be nearly home. But her wings felt so heavy and she felt so out of breath. Aura glanced at her wings as she flew on and saw with horror that they were turning white. White and frosty. She grew frightened. She knew then that she had been caught in Jack Frost's magical shower of ice. Aura felt dizzy and fell from the sky. She landed on a grassy bank. She had no energy left, and as she closed her eyes, she felt that she was surely going to die. She lay there for how long she did not know. Her little body became camouflaged against the chilled earth. No one to help. No one even knowing she was there. Aura took one last breath and waited for death to come and collect her. But that night, luck was on her side. A fire fairy named Aiden was travelling through the forest. He glowed red in the darkness of the trees. His feet were sprightly, and he danced through the silver birch trees and sang past the tall pine trees. He whistled a little tune, not feeling the cold at all. His red jacket, buttoned with gold, kept him warm, and he felt glad to be back in Fairy Realm after his travels. He had travelled far and wide, across vast oceans and tall, snow-capped mountains, to the very depths of the volcanoes on his apprenticeship. Now, as he passed through the forest clearing, he skipped up the grassy bank and saw a strange sight before him. A beautiful fairy girl lay on the ground before him. It was like a vision in white, a dream not true. He stared at the girl, wondering at her flowing hair and pure white skin. She looked frozen. With a start, he realized that she was in fact frozen. He reached down and pulled her into his arms. Her body was stiff and chilled to the bone. He gazed at her face. Her pale face white with frost, her lips a tint of blue, her eyelashes frozen together. He fell instantly in love with this poor girl. The heat from his heart burst out from his jacket, and as he cradled the poor dead fairy, he felt such love for her. His body glowed bright and warm. He held her tight in his arms against his chest and prayed for her. He shut his eyes and prayed hard. He begged the king of fairies that she might live, that she might be saved. As his eyes were shut, he did not notice that the heat from his body was thawing the poor frozen maiden. Her wings crackled and fluttered. Her eyes flickered, and she opened their eyes slowly. The first sight she saw was the most handsome fairy boy she'd ever seen. His dark brown eyes gazed into hers, and she too fell in love. When Aura felt strong enough, Aiden took her home, his arm around her waist, steadying her. Aura, although drained of energy, felt safe and glad that Aiden was escorting her home. After that night, Aiden and Aura would meet every day, and within a year they were married. Aura shared her love of the sea with Aiden, and they often sat on the shore watching the sunset. Aura never had to worry about the cold any more, as Aiden was always at her side to keep her warm.